whose profession. I want you to understand no knowledge is wasteful or useless. Even if your situation, your status is such that you will think that this is not relevant to you, because we don't have the knowledge that he has, it is important that we listen, because you never know what might affect us, citizen as much as you may be. So please, I want you to listen with rapt attention to what our guests will say to us. And thereafter, if any few questions you want to ask, you can do so. But when it's all over and you want to do one-on-one, you are also free to do that for your own good. So I am going to give the microphone to him, and he takes off from here. And our duty is to listen with rapt attention and see what is or not relevant, in the discussion or the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pastor. As I said, my name is Joshua Moses, and I am an attorney. My office is in downtown Silver Spring, and I have been practicing law for about 29 years, mostly immigration law since then. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who is an attorney too, and he told me about your pastor, that pastor contacted him and wanted him to come and speak to his congregation about immigration law. And well, of course, we know that we are in uncharted territories at this time, a lot of uncertainty. So because he doesn't practice immigration law, he told me about it. So I told him to give your pastor my name and number, and he called me. And I spoke with your pastor. I said, well, it must be a true man of God for a pastor to be looking for somebody to pay to actually come and educate his congregation about what is going on in their immigration atmosphere. So that's why I'm here. As the pastor said, there are maybe a lot of people here who may not need an immigration service. But one thing is very clear. We all as immigrants, we do know people who do not have status in the United States. We get called upon every time to be asked questions about what is going on and all that. Sometimes we just give advice based on what we know, which may not be professional advice. So that's why I designed this presentation to be able to just enlighten everybody whether or not you need immigration service. So what I did, I'm going to discuss first the options that are available for stay in the United States. Then I'm going to discuss the options that are available if you already have a stay. Let's say you have a green card, you are not a citizen yet, what your rights are and what you need to know. Then for those who are citizens, then I'm going to also talk a little bit about those who are citizens, what you need to know, what your rights are, and what you can do and what you cannot do. So that's the way I want to present this. And at the end of the day, you can ask questions. To tell you the truth, I think this is more should be of question and answer, because you all have questions about what's been going on. I know that you all look at the social media, you hear a lot of things about what's going on, how a U.S. citizen has been deported, that, we are hearing a lot of things, and these things are being forwarded to us every time. So we need clarification so that we can be informed of what is going on. We need to know our rights. So that's what I am going to be doing here. So a lot of us come in here, maybe as visitors or one way or the other, we come in here and we decide to stay. And the United States is a welcoming country. And there are laws as to what you can do to stay in the United States. And the laws are very clear. The lawyers don't invent them. Some people think that you just go to a lawyer and they will do something for you. And I want to also emphasize that just because there is a provision for relief or something that you can do to stay doesn't mean you qualify. So those things are enacted by Congress, they are there. For you to get it, you have to qualify, not necessarily because you're in the United States. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the family preference. To tell you the truth, for most of us who come from Africa, most of us, there's no border to cross. So we usually come with a visa order. So family preference means that if you have a family member in the United States, the family member can file for you. There is confusion with a lot of people as to who is the family member. So there are different categories, depends on how that family member is related to you. So there is what they call immediate relatives. So immediate relatives are children under 21, spouses and parents of US citizens. Those people do not require waiting periods. So if you are a US citizen, you can file for your spouse, you can file for your parents, you can file for your children under 21. There is no waiting time. So for most people coming to the United States, they have questions about, okay, what can I do and all that. So that is family preference. Now, US citizens, they are permanent residents. Sometimes people ask, as a permanent resident, can you file for somebody? Yes. Under the same category, permanent resident can file for relatives. I'll go over that later. So, but now I'm just focusing on the ways to stay in the United States. So that is family visa. Now, under the family, you can file for extended relatives, which I'm going to go over later. But after family, then you have employment, okay? So employment means that you come to the United States, an employer is willing to file for you. There are different categories. There's the temporary employment, which is usually good for 3 years. And of course, there are seasonal workers which will come in. But we want to focus on how you can stay permanently in the United States. So under the employment category, if an employer files for you, then after a time, you can stay in the United States. But one thing that you must know is that in all these categories, apart from being an immediate relative where there's no waiting period, all other ones will require waiting periods. So just the fact that you have an employment doesn't mean that you stay in the United States. Most times, because people come to the United States with a visa, and they are not able to maintain that status. Usually when you come with a visa, you only have 6 months. Employment visa can take a very long time. So most times people in the United States would not be able to benefit from employment visas because they have overstayed. So while it is a way for you to stay here, I just state that it is very difficult because most times, first of all, you may not get an employer who is willing to wait for several years for you to get the visa because they want you to be working immediately. And just the fact that an employer has filed for you doesn't mean you can start working immediately. Now, so that is employment. Then you may have heard people say, oh, I want to file asylum. I want to find asylum there. Asylum is actually an international law, and there are certain countries where, asylum may be possible, but not all countries. Asylum essentially is saying that you are afraid of the government of your country or a group of people the government of your country cannot control. Not all countries in the world have groups that the government cannot control. I can give you an example. During the war in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Congo, Rwanda, and all that, they had rebels and all that. So when you are afraid of those groups, then you may qualify for asylum. I use the word may because it doesn't mean that everybody from that country will qualify. When the United States feels that a group of people, like country, they are in danger or they are not safe, what the United States will do, we give them temporary protected status. That is across the board. But when it comes to asylum, it is individualized, which means that you on your own must prove that you are afraid of the government of your country. So when people call you and say, I want to file asylum, the first question you ask them, who are you afraid of? And people will give different things. Oh, there's, this in the north and that, but that's not sufficient to qualify you for asylum. Another way to stay in the United States is if you have been here for a very long time and you are in removal proceedings, you can file for what they call cancellation of removal. And essentially, not everybody qualifies for that. You have to be in deportation proceedings for you to qualify for a cancellation of removal. So nobody wants to be in deportation proceedings because deportation proceedings, when it's initiated against you, is essentially a time to take you out of the country. So it may benefit people who have been here for a very long time, who can prove that either their spouse, they will suffer extreme and unusual hardship. Focus on extreme and unusual, not just because you're in deportation proceedings. You have to suffer extreme and unusual hardship for you to qualify for that. And you have to have been here for at least 10 years. So those are some of the ways that are generally acceptable for people to come here. There are other kinds of visas that may enable you to come here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Now, when it comes to employment, for instance, there are different categories. There is a category for those who are very, they are extraordinary ability people. That means they are like top scientists and all that. Then there's also a category for people who have advanced degree, and those people, they may be able to show or tell the government to waive the requirement for labor certification, because what they'll be doing here has national implication or in the best interest of the United States. So that is also very difficult to get. I'm saying this because a lot of you may hear people who say, oh yes, I have a master's degree, I want to file for myself and all that. It allows for self-petitioning, but the requirements are very difficult, not just the fact that you have a master's degree or a doctorate degree. So that's one of those ways. And of course, there are visas for religious workers and all that, but not everybody qualifies for that. Again, you have to have been a pastor, and there are requirements that you have been a member of the organization for 2 years or an affiliated organization. So those are the various ways that when people come to the United States, they exploit. So if you do not have any one of them, then you do not qualify no matter what you do. Now, let's talk about who can file for who. Now, if you're a U.S. citizen, you can file for almost everybody. You can file for your children, married or not married. As I said, immediate relatives are the ones who are 21, children under 21, parents and spouses. Those ones, you don't have to wait. And so they can get a visa immediately. But you can file for your children who are married. It takes a very long time. You can file for your children who are over 21. It takes a very long time. And so for those people in the United States, they may not be able to wait for that. So that is why most times, to get benefit in the United States, you need an immediate relative to do it, which is either a spouse, a parent if you're under 21, so that is really very difficult to get. As a permanent resident, you can also file for relatives. Depends on who they are. You can file for your married children, and of course, you can file for your children. Now, because permanent residents are not United States citizens, there's a wait time, and most times, the people you are filing for may not be able to wait in the United States for those visas. So if you're a permanent resident, you can file for a relative. It's better filing for a relative who is overseas so that they can wait until they come to the United States. If they're already here, they're in violation of status, they will not be able to get visas. And so permanent residents cannot file for their parents, they cannot file for married children and all that. Those categories take a very long time. For instance, if you file for a married child at this point, the wait could be up to 15 years, and a married child could be up to 10 years. And the reason is that those people, when they come in, they can actually bring all their relatives here to the United States. So there is a wait time. There are numbers assigned each year to different categories. So when they are taken up, that means that you have to wait for the next number. That's why every year, the more people file those applications, the longer the wait is. Because let's say it's 22,000, the first 22,000 takes it, then the next 22,000 has to wait. Every year, it gets longer and longer and longer. So those are the things that you can do. Now, when it comes to green card, we get a lot of requests from our family members who want to file for our parents and all that, or we have a green card. Now, having a green card does not mean that you can just have a green card and leave the United States. Most of the things we have been hearing about right now actually have to do with that, because people get the green card and they leave. I tell people every time, when you stay more than 6 months with a green card outside of the United States, you can come in, but does that mean that you can do it every time? So I tell people, just the fact that you have done it this year doesn't mean you can do it every time. At a point when immigration looks at your record and sees that you have not actually been living in the United States, then at a point of entry, they can tell you, you have not really been living in the United States. Our record shows that you don't live here. So that's when you hear that permanent residents have been deported. They are not necessarily deported. What they do is that when they see that you have not maintained status or you have abandoned your status, it's called abandonment. That means you have not maintained the requirements of living in the United States. So what they do is that at the border, they will ask you whether you want to voluntarily relinquish your green card. Okay? So that is where it gets tricky. Sometimes people may be afraid and they can trick you to sign the paper that you want to return. By signing the paper, you have essentially given up your green card. So if you are in that situation and they tell you to sign, because they tell you we're going to deport you, they tell you a lot of things. Because you're not a lawyer, you don't know. But never sign. Just tell them that you want to go and see an immigration judge. So what they will do, they cannot deport you when you want to see an immigration judge. They will send you to an immigration judge who will determine whether or not you can be deported. And if you are able to show the reasons why you have overstayed or stayed consistently in your country with a green card as a green card holder, the immigration judge may restore your green card. But if you voluntarily sign that, you don't have the opportunity anymore of even seeing an immigration judge. So for green card holders, you have to be aware of this, that having a green card does not mean that you will get it and you live outside of the United States. It's actually a requirement for you to live in the United States. I tell green card holders, don't stay more than 6 months outside of the United States if you're a green card holder. First time you do it, you come in, no problem. Second time. So life is luck. Sometimes you may just meet an officer who is just more curious about your coming in and look at the records and say, okay, you have not been here. But there are people who have been coming in and going out like that, but that doesn't mean it is right. So you have to be very careful if you're a green card holder when you are coming to the United States and when you're living. And the other reason why we tell green card holders not to stay more than 6 months is because it actually affects your ability to become a citizen. When you're applying for citizenship, which I'm going to talk about briefly, you are required to show that you have been in the United States for half of the time that's required to be to apply for citizenship. If you got a green card through normal process, you usually require 5 years before you can apply for citizenship. But if you are married to a U.S. citizen and still married, and you got your green card through marriage to a U.S. citizen, after 3 years, you can actually apply to be a citizen. So it's a shorter process. But you must still be married, and you must show that there's marital union between both of you. So I will tell people, if you stay too long as a green card holder, then you may not meet the requirement to be a citizen, which is half of the time that is required for you to be in the United States. And anytime you stay more than 6 months, it breaks the period of residence. So if you have stayed 4 years all this time in the United States, then suddenly you leave, you go and spend 8 months, it breaks that period that you can use to count towards your citizenship. So it's never recommended that you do that. So those are the things that a green card holder needs to know, in addition to being able to file for, essentially a green card is more like citizenship, but except those exceptions that you have, and of course you cannot vote, So some people keep their green card for a very long time. Generally, we advise people, there's really no need for you to have a green card. If you qualify for citizenship, I think it's better to have it because it prevents you from a lot of things and all that. So that's generally what we advise green card holder. As for citizens, in addition to what I have said about who you can file for, generally, you are a citizen. You can leave the country, come back anytime. You can vote. You can do a lot of things. And of course, recently we heard, okay, there's a task force to denaturalize people. Denaturalization is very difficult, and essentially you're already a citizen, but we are in difficult times right now. A lot of things are going on, and we do not have control over them. Nobody can tell you with certainty what will happen and what will not happen. And but one thing is very clear: this no president can come and change immigration laws. I want you to understand that your laws are still very clear. Only Congress enacts immigration law, and immigration laws are universal. That means nobody can tell you that there's something happening in New York, which I see every time. Oh, there are people getting green cards in New York or Florida. No, there is one immigration, and that is the United States immigration. Whatever benefit you can get in Florida, you can get in New York, you can get in Maryland. So don't be deceived when people are telling you to go to certain places that you are going to go. So what has changed recently is the enforcement. Okay, these laws have been there. Okay, and so all the things you are hearing about deportation and all that, we've heard a lot of things. Can you travel with, your passport and all that? No. So I'm going to talk briefly about that. But the point is that, yeah, there are few executive orders, okay, but they didn't really change the laws. So what I have stated before as the ways you will get your green card and all that and the rights that you have, they are still there. So just knowing your rights and insisting on it is what's important. For most people, when you are faced with an authority, you may be threatened, and you don't know, how to fight and all that, So these are difficult times. What we tell people now, because of what's going on, is if you're a green card holder, apply for your citizenship. And, if you know there's any reason why they may hold you or not let you come back in, please stay here until you become a citizen. So we don't know what those things may be. That those are individual things that may have happened to you that you need to let your lawyer know before you travel. So going back on the citizenship, there are requirements for that. You must have been here for 5 years or 3 years. You must have good moral character. What that means is that for the period that you are required to apply for citizenship, you must have good moral character. So if you have been convicted of a crime or you're on parole or any of that, that may affect your ability to become a citizen. Regular traffic may not, okay? So, and of course, there are a lot of other things. You must be 18 years old, and ability to read and write, and of course pass the civic test. Those are minor requirements compared to what you're getting about it, by being a United States citizen. So those are the few things that you need to know about what is going on now. As I said, I will be glad to answer questions, and if there's anything that comes up, I will explain more. But yeah, so yes. Yes. Okay. All right. So that is employment based, okay? And as I said, there are different levels of employment based. So employment based means that you need labor certification, which an employer files for you. An employer does not just file for you because the employer wants you to be there. The employer has to test the labor market to see whether they are US citizens or permanent residents who are qualified to do the job. That is the process of labor certification. So when the employer wants to hire you, they will go through the state to get what they call a prevailing wage. So if you are a scientist or a doctor, if the prevailing wage is 200,000 a year, the employer cannot say, I want to hire you and pay you 50,000. So that is why the law requires the employer to test the market. So if they advertise this position, there's a requirement for them to advertise the position. And there are 20 doctors waiting to get the job who are US citizens and permanent residents. The employer cannot hire you. However, if they cannot get those people to do the work, that's when they can proceed with labor certification. So what having an advanced degree does is that you are essentially saying, instead of getting an employer to file for you, that you can self-petition on your own because you have this advanced degree, you are somebody of extraordinary ability. So by self-petitioning, you are asking the government to waive the requirement for the labor certification and all that. So that's what that one is. As I said before, there are requirements for that. It's not just, it's not enough for you to have advanced degree. You have to show that the waiving that requirement is of national interest. Okay. You also have to show that the endeavor that you are trying to go into, apart from benefiting the national interest, that it is something that is unique and so you have to be involved in like research and all that, not just sufficient. If you have worked in the area, and of course you have to get peer reviews, people who can attest to the fact that your endeavor meets this requirement is going to benefit. So the area where most people fail in that is actually the national interest. So they are able to prove a lot of things that, okay, I have an advanced degree, I have 2 doctorates and all that. Then the government comes back and says, okay, tell me how what you are now going to be doing benefits the United States. That is one important area for all the ones I have seen where they have been denied is just the requirement for the national interest. Most people are not able to. If you have a job, you are getting paid to do the work, how does that benefit the national interest? So it is actually reserved for a lot of people who may be doing research that will benefit the United States. So it's not to discourage anybody from filing, but I have seen that the requirements have been streamlined. Before 1995, it was much easier, but a decision came in 1995 that actually streamlined the process, so it's more difficult to get now, but that doesn't mean you should not try. Yes.
What if that person have an online presence and is helping in his own way by doing research work? People are contacting them and they're, he's really doing something in the community.
Yes. Well, it is your responsibility as a person filing to convince the government that what you are doing benefits the United States. So whatever you can throw in, I tell people throw in the kitchen sink, throw in everything. Get, your peers, your professors and all that, let them write to explain how what you are doing. If people are contacting you online, they are doing different things, does that mean it benefits everybody? Who are the people contacting you? Are you getting paid? What are they contacting you for? What are you doing? So it is your responsibility to prove to the government. The government is just waiting for you to convince because a benefit you are getting, so you have to prove it. Like any other thing, any immigration benefit you file for, you have to prove it. It's your responsibility. Okay, yes. uh, America recognizes dual citizenship. That's one thing that is very clear. Otherwise, people like Elon Musk and others will not be here. So, yes, America recognizes dual citizenship. And even though during your citizenship, they make you to pledge allegiance to the United States, which is normal, but they don't generally say, no, you have to renounce the citizenship of where you are from. And so a lot of people carry passports belonging to other countries, So if you're Nigerian, you have a Nigerian passport and you have an American. There is nothing in the law, American law, that says that you cannot carry a Nigerian passport and carry an American passport. So all the things we have been seeing online, that when you are leaving, people say, okay, now, you don't have to. It says that you must, you cannot have that. No, it's not what it's saying. It says that when you are leaving the United States, you must carry your U.S. passport. Of course. How are you going to enter if you don't carry your U.S. passport? But does that mean that he's saying that you cannot carry any other passport? No. So America doesn't care most times if you are leaving the United States. They only care when you're coming in. So what people do, you take your United States passport, have it, because, the airlines must make sure that the country you are going to, you are able to enter the country, otherwise they'll be fined. And of course, if you're coming to America, they must certify that you either have a visa or you have an American passport to come in. So they must ensure. So America recognizes dual citizenship, and there's nothing in the law that says that you cannot have dual citizenship. You cannot be a dual citizen of the United States and any other country.
I have a question. I just want to ask, is there an avenue for parents filing for children
over 21, that that it probably you're trying to bypass the length, the period, basically. So period of filing. So right now, if you want to like expedite the process, right, and they're asking you to show reasons, you don't have actual um, um, evidence, but maybe based on hardship or whatever reason you have, can you present that and can it be acceptable to like bypass the process?
No. See, apart from you being a U.S. citizen, as I said, immediate relatives, if they're under 21, they don't have to wait for anything.
Yeah.
Once they're over 21, there's a wait time. Every year, the State Department issues the number of visas they are going to allot for each category.
Right.
So if your category is 20,000, that's what it is. There is, millions of people who have filed and waiting have the same reason to expedite as you.
Right.
So it doesn't change. For you to know when you're filing, just go online and just get the visa bulletin. It's issued by the State Department. Every month, it comes out every month. It's called the visa bulletin. Just go in there, it will tell you what year they are processing right now. It will tell you the different categories and who they are and all that. So depending on who they are, for instance, if you file for an unmarried child, if you're a U.S. citizen, that, because an unmarried child, the process is shorter. Shorter means it could be more than 5, 6, 7, or 8 years. But if the child is married, it takes a longer time, because when your married child is coming, your married child is going to come with the wife and all children under 21. So they are bringing more people, So the same with adult children, they can bring their relatives and all that. So that is why it takes a longer time. So no matter what emergency you have, every other person who has filed, millions of people who are waiting, they have the same reasons why they want to expedite. It doesn't change. So just before you're filing or after you have filed, just look at the visa bulletin. It will tell you category F2A. This is what we are processing now. The way we calculate it is, if they say they're processing 2015, April 2015, our calculation will say, okay, it takes about 10 years before they get to your turn. So if yours was not filed April 2015, you are looking about 10 years. So that's the simple way to just look at it and say, okay, based on what they are processing right now, this is how long it's going to take.
So you're saying that there's a difference now between unmarried over 21 and married?
Yes, there has always been a difference. If they are unmarried, it takes shorter period. If they are married, it takes a longer period. And of course, only U.S. citizens can file for married children. I want to quickly say something about why we are going on that. U.S. citizens can file for their brothers and sisters. Okay? Every time, it breaks my heart when people come to me and say, oh, I have my brother, I have my sister overseas, and they have been there. Can I file for them? I say, yes. I always ask one question: how long have you been a citizen? Say, oh, I've been a citizen for the last 25 years. My answer will be, if you filed 25 years ago, your brother and sister will be here right now. Because it takes average of 13 to 15 years if you are a U.S. citizen and you file for your brother and sister. When people hear 13, 15, they say, oh, it's too long. But before you know it, the time is here. So I tell people, if you want to file for your brothers and sisters, from the day you become a citizen, put it in and let it just sit down there and be waiting. Because if you come 15 years' time, by that time, it may take a longer time. So don't look at how long it takes, because it has to go in for it to be counting time. If it doesn't go in, it doesn't count time. So, you can file for your brothers and sisters. I want you to know that. And it is beneficial for you to do that. And just do it immediately instead of counting the time. Yes.
My question is about asylum.
Yes.
So I know somebody that's already here, and the parents brought them here through asylum.
Yeah.
But they came here like 7, at the age of 7, but
Okay.
the dad didn't file for green card.
Yes.
So the dad was hoping that they're going to become a citizen when he became a citizen. Unfortunately, because he didn't fight for the green card, they didn't give him a citizenship. The
That's
boy
correct.
a citizenship. So he's now the age about 24, but he's here under asylum, and that passed, and then mom decided to fight for him. I don't know how that process works.